Maranguka means caring for others and offering help, and so I think that's really the platform that what Maranguka really is, and certainly we've made I guess a commitment and probably more a specific of a pact to to say that to community that Maranguka can be whatever you want it to be, and also the other point is that we made a commitment that no one would be left behind.
And that was our problem to start with. We were over-serviced. I was confused at one time in life there too, because it just, there was all these services provided for our people, but they weren't actually getting that service, if you know what I'm saying.
You have to do it for us. It couldn't be done for them because we've tried it for a long, long time. And we've got some wins, but it's wins that they would give us, I would say. Housing projects, that sorts of stuff, health projects, and they're wins that they would give us, not what we needed, but what they think we needed. And so it was always done on that side of the river, on that side of the bridge, and we'd get up the next morning and we'd still go to that side of the river to try and achieve what we wanted to achieve. And so we decided, no, we're not going to cross there no more. If you really want to do something for us, then you're going to have to come to us, but come under our way of doing business. And I think that's where Maranguka kicked off right there.
It just started to get exciting in the areas of us making decisions for ourselves. And someone was actually listening to us and driving these conversations elsewhere.
I feel incredibly blessed that I've been in this almost from the start. Back with the early conversations, sitting at a table with Alistair Ferguson and Mick Williams, and the three of us plotting almost to get stuff happening. One of the key things for me, going right back to the initial phases, was in around 2008, where we had the forum and a very, very well attended representative forum around working with the state government to bring in alcohol restrictions. Hugely contentious right across community. It was the probably most widely representative forum I've ever been to in Bourke, where people stayed and really actively engaged around it. And that to me was sort of the genesis of Maranguka. It was very soon after that Mick and Alistair did the trip to Cape York and looked at the models that were happening up around the Cape as far as this community-led development. For me, there was a bit of a demarcation of change when Joe Lawrence, as the Regional Director of Family and Community Services, came back into the region.
I played a role in Bourke, I'm dating myself here, back in the 90s. So at the time, Bourke was having a great deal of social problems. The council was frustrated that it wasn't being fixed by government. At the time, DPC, I was with Department of Community Services at that time, and DPC was asked to gather all the government officers together, and we had to meet with the full council. And it was a fairly forthright meeting and a lot of frustration by the council about how to fix something. And they clearly saw that it somehow was somebody else's problem. I just wanted it to go away. It didn't go away despite efforts by government. And the reason it didn't go away is that you can't just have government fix it. You actually need a composite of supports to actually make these sorts of complex social issues resolved to some degree.
So justice reinvestment is about shifting resources out of prisons and the criminal justice system into crime prevention and early intervention. And it does that by looking at data in terms of identifying which communities are costing the government the most in terms of incarceration rates in those communities. And then it uses data in a similar way to a collective impact approach to really put a lens over what's actually happening in that community, what's causing offending in that community. The community of Bourke reached out to us because they were interested in the approach, how it might look in Bourke, how could they create better pathways for children and young people, and how they could keep them away from the criminal justice system. They reached out to us. Mick Gooder, who was at the Human Rights Commission at that time, and myself went out to Bourke for the first of our visits. So what happened when we first went to Bourke, what we found was a community that was really on the front foot with this work already. Bourke had been splashed across the papers as the place that had the highest crime rate in the world, higher than New York City, and the community were very wounded by that, quite rightly. They felt that the community itself had been misrepresented through that process, through the media process, and so they were, and it wasn't just for that reason. They had for a number of years been looking at solutions and really looking at community-driven solutions. So it was like we came midstream, really. There was already something happening, something palpable. We had an initial meeting with community members, and Mick's approach at that time was very much, we'll come back if you invite us to come back. And they did invite us to come back, and they kept inviting us to come back to talk more about what justice reinvestment might look like in Bourke. So what kind of data might the community want to see? What sort of justice circuit breakers could bring about immediate change in the lives of children and young people, and how they were getting caught up with the criminal justice system? What would it involve to set an agenda that was common to across the service sector in Bourke? Things like that. The community were really interested in exploring.
We had a meeting with some senior politicians, and he was hitting right back into the money side of it. And we just said to him, listen, we don't want your money. We don't need your money. Not yet anyway. We don't want nothing to do with that. We just come to tell you this is how we are. This is what we want to do first. And I think one of the things we really needed to do was get our own governance together. So if you're listening to this, make sure that you get your governance in place proper before you take that dark step out into the water. Because we never had that. We never had that at the outset. There was just 3 or 4 or 5 of us just taking the bold step. And so get your governance proper. Get all those tribal council people that there, get all those mixed groups that are there, get them all together and talk, not about yourselves, but talk about how you can help one another, look after one another first.
We started to vision it. I think I did too, I started to vision where this Maranguka model was going to. And when it started to develop the frameworks around something that I would never ever spoke about way back when, I wouldn't even understood it, but as we went along, we got educated around governance and other things in life. That's required to, I suppose, sit at these tables to have that understanding around why it's important for us as Aboriginal people to make our own decisions. I ask our people to look at the frameworks of what they're currently under, because this one is very different. It's about us. It's not about nobody else, it's just about us.